Hey friends, it's Pastor Lee coming at you with your Midweek Check-In. I hope this time finds you and your family happy and healthy and ready to face the rest of the week in the name of Jesus Christ. Like many of you, I stayed up late last night watching election returns and woke up this morning disappointed but not surprised that a final result was still not clear. Now, I tend to be a political junkie. I find not just the ideology and policy side of politics fascinating, but the process as well. I love looking at an electoral map and piecing together different scenarios that could ultimately get one candidate or the other to the required 270 votes that win the presidency. But after a long primary season and a more bitter and divisive campaign than I can remember in my lifetime, I have to confess that I'm just ready for it to be over. I'm tired of it all, and I suspect some of you are as well. But of course, that didn't stop me from having my coffee in front of the morning news shows this morning as analysts of all ilks tried to make sense of it all. But there was one conversation that particularly struck me. It was a conversation not about Election Day, but rather looking forward. And the analyst was commenting on the fact that former Vice President Biden wasn't winning among some minority groups that historically have leaned Democratic. And the analyst said that clearly the Democratic Party needs to really examine itself and how it talks about things like race, because clearly the way they did it this time around didn't resonate. And that's when it happened. That's when another member of the panel jumped in. His name is John Meacham, and he is a Pulitzer Prize-winning presidential historian. And what he said really made me sit up and take notice. He said, I agree. Both sides need to examine the way they're talking about any number of issues. But he said, more important, both sides need to learn how to listen. And I was like, boom. I have to admit that comment struck me as wonderfully profound this morning because it was a strong foundational truth to it. As our society has become more polarized, more divided, and not just along political lines, we seem to have lost the ability to listen to one another. We seem to have lost the ability to recognize and acknowledge the validity of any opinion other than our own. If you tune into any of the cable news outlets, you don't have to watch very long before the discussion descends into a shouting match, with each person simply trying to out-talk the other. The attitude across the board seems to be, this is my opinion, this is what I believe, and if you don't agree with me, well then you are simply you can fill in the blank. And you don't even have to turn on the television set to see it. Post an opinion on social media and then just sit back and wait to see what happens. It won't take long for someone to tell you that you're wrong, and then it's off to the races. We've simply forgotten how to listen. And listening is crucial in any relationship because listening is how we validate each other. Listening is how we communicate to another person that he or she has value, that they have worth, that they matter. Because any conversation should not begin and end with my convincing you that I'm right and you're wrong. But rather, every conversation should begin with an earnest desire on my part to understand you and to communicate to you that you are important enough for me to take the time to do so. Listening fosters understanding, and understanding ultimately builds relationships. And surely, we need relationship now more than ever. In his letter to the Jewish Christians scattered outside Israel, the Apostle James wrote, My dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Those words were written 2,000 years ago, but they are as true today as they were then. They are, I believe, words with which we can all live. For today, I pray God's deepest blessings on you and your families. Have a great week, and I'll see you Sunday.